33 is A. Motion that was made to amend 33A.
Chair recognizes Councilmember Grady.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to offer a substitute for my amendment to Chapter 26 last week. This substitute continues to allow 20% reduction of the parking requirement for transit-oriented development on a transit corridor or on a Type A street, which is a street where transit is located or a street that intersects a transit corridor and is located within 1,320 feet walking distance of a transit station. This substitute is essentially the same, but it removes a conflicting paragraph, defines required bicycle parking for transit-oriented development where a parking requirement reduction is requested, and requires developments that utilize the reduction meet the development guidelines for transit corridor development from Section 4 of Chapter 42. It just kind of cleans up some of the concerns the administration had with the original amendment.
Thank you, Councilmember, and we do support the substitute. Councilmember Davis.
Thank you, ma'am. Are we discussing the amendment now on the
The
actual?
amendment, just the amendment.
Okay, I'm going to put that. You put that in.
Any discussion of the amendment? Councilmember Christie.
Just a question, I guess, of Ms. Noriega, the overall philosophy that in the stations, there's less need for cars because of the mass transit. Thank you very much.
Further discussion? Of the amendment on Councilmember Pennington.
I think I asked this question before, but this is permissive, right? It doesn't require anything.
Yes, sir.
It's market driven. Thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, we will vote on the proposed substitute. Favoring, opposed, motion carries.
And then 33A is an ordinance as amended.
Councilmember Davis.
Thank you, ma'am. I want to start off by thanking the administration for the time, the effort in working on this ordinance. I understand all the organizations that have come together to discuss this ordinance, and I know it's somewhat difficult to come up with a way to reform the parking rules. But I just want to clarify one thing. I understand the intent of parking lots, and I understand neighborhoods, but I also have to understand the business owner and what makes this city and certain particular areas in the city of Houston popular and felt favorable. At one point in time, on the corner of Travis, Alabama, and Maine, the Breakfast Club, Sparrow, and the Continental Club were voted the best block in the city of Houston. And at one time, we had the Farmers Market with Monica Pope. We had Kids First Saturday at the Breakfast Club. Continental had outdoor items, events. And as Midtown began to develop, more people were attracted to Midtown because of the ambiance. And I just think in the section 26.490, it prohibits the placement of anything in parking lots. Again, the ability to host farmers markets, which I'm sure, every Wednesday at a certain point in time, we're going to have people out here encouraging people to go outside. And I think that's what having events on parking lots, that's what it does for the city of Houston. Springtime, summertime, it's an opportunity to go outside and feel good about, anything. You have a horrible day, you go to a restaurant, you have comfort food, you're outside, hanging out with your friends. It just changes the hustle and bustle of everyday life. And again, I understand this is very difficult to reform, but what I would like to say, if this passes today, in 6 months, when we come back, automatically, it's an automatic thing, and we review this in a committee meeting. I was going to put forth an amendment today to understand that the legal or the loopholes and things like that would have occurred, and I didn't want to put undue stress upon this this ordinance. I want to take some time, again, if it passes, to look into this, because one of the things I don't want to hurt, besides my business, I don't want to hurt other restaurants that are out there trying to make it work. And I understand you all have to look at the neighborhoods and the complaints that you get, but, you know, I'm just looking for a happy medium.
Councilmember, I want to be clear, there's nothing in the ordinance that prohibits placement of obstructions. That you can put a tent, you can put a farmer's market, but you still have to meet your minimum parking requirements. And I just wanted to clarify that for the public that may be watching. Because you said it prohibits putting anything in a parking lot. It doesn't prohibit, if you can cover up half your parking lot if you can still meet your minimum parking
Right,
requirements.
and in some places you can't because you're landlocked. And I got it, I understand, I it's difficult.
I understand your point,
Yes, ma'am.
you said something that was not technically accurate, and that's all I was trying to do.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought I was reading from the, okay. You know, you're landlocked and then there's certain things that you just can't do. And now you're asking, I understand the intention of a parking lot is to park. I got that. But sometimes, you know, things evolve and making Midtown what it is today, you know, we have apartments all around us in expensive homes. And so we can't do anything else. And I'm just using this as an example. There are other people out there, and I get it, we have to protect the citizens in the neighborhoods.
And as to the issue of bringing it up to committee, I'm assuming the committee chair would be happy to have further discussions on this issue that probably Councilmember Adams, the Sustainable Housing, Sustainable Development Committee. Mayor Pro Tem Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. And Councilmember, I definitely support, you know, your request to bring this before committee for an update. I think it's important to always see if there's any unintended consequences from what we passed. I too looked into the issue that you're talking about. I think that it wasn't viewed as a widespread problem. In other words, that some of those activities do occur. I think there are isolated incidents where certain locations may not even respect any parking, as the mayor stated, and perhaps use them almost as an extension of their business on a daily or basis or all weekend. And so it kind of puts the city in a bad position, because where do people park? It ends up kind of getting back out into communities to meet their parking needs. Now, if they provide additional parking, or those that do have adjacent lots, those situations aren't necessarily a problem. It's those isolated incidents that where it's an ongoing every day or weekend situation, and there's no additional parking, and there's been no contact with the city to try to resolve some of those issues. So I think those are kind of dealt with on a complaint-driven process to try to work with that business owner and find out what's happening. I'm sure a lot of times they may put out bikes or something, you know, on sale, for example, from a bike shop, and I don't know if those necessarily cause a hardship on the community, but the larger scale events that happen on a weekend, for example, where they're having sports tournaments in their parking lot on a regular basis, and then over time, I think those could be a hardship on the community. But if I would think that if we see that those are indeed a problem, then I think we need to address it. I think with the administration, and just from my perspective, was trying to avoid creating an additional bureaucracy or process to then regulate everyone that's having an event like that, and instead of just kind of take it based on complaints, like if there's no additional parking. Because if we're setting minimum standards and we create some flexibility in reducing some of those standards, such as what the councilor proposed, then it almost seems like we would have no parking minimums if we allow any business just to set up shop or create patios on their business every week. So I just wanted to add that to the discussion.
Councilmember Pennington.
Thank you, Mary. This is not on the subject of Mr. Davis's suggestion, which I think is a good one that we revisited. But I'm mindful of the testimony of the lady yesterday who lives, I believe, near Dynamo Stadium, and she mentioned that it's not a residential area, so they can't get a residential parking permit. And you know, it could be that from an economic standpoint, that's kind of a irresolvable issue, or maybe not worth it. But I just was suggesting that I know we're trying to encourage people to live in the vicinity of those areas, and maybe we could have somebody from planning or ARA or whatever have a look at that and see if there are any ways that that problem could be ameliorated. know typically in an urban area is it costs a lot of money to park your car. I know my son lives in New York City and he pays almost as much for his rent for his car as he does for his apartments. Not literally, but it's a substantial amount, and that happens. But it might be worthwhile to look at it since I know we're trying to encourage businesses. Thank you.
Councilmember, that's worthy discussion. This new ordinance allows for special parking districts, and Dynamo area would be right for something like that. Today, with our current ordinances, we can't do anything for the residential areas that have developed around Dynamo Stadium, but with a special parking district, it would be possible for them to come with a plan, working with the stakeholders over there that might be able to accommodate them. Councilmember Adams.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to yield, if I can, to Councilmember Davis, because I support your concerns, and I see where you're going, and for the protection, especially for those businesses. But I will make the commitment to hold a committee meeting within, I guess, 4 to 6 months. But at your request, what exactly do you want us to hear? What do you want us to discuss at this committee, so I know how to communicate with the administration for setting the agenda? Are you expecting for change? Are you expecting for re-looking at? So if you can just give me some understanding so I know what direction to go in to assist you with your request.
Well, again, I repeat, I understand it's difficult for this reform, and I understand in certain areas it's much needed. What I'm just, as Councilmember Gonzalez said, the unintentional incidences that may occur from this. And, it's new, it's changed, and, sometimes we're just not ready for change. And I can admit that. Businesses, things are going well. You choose to continue down that path and maybe not swipe it, but, and maybe we'll bounce back and we'll go and figure out something else. But the one thing I would like to monitor, if there is the inability to.
Councilmember, may I help you?
Yes, ma'am.
If there are complaints that come in post the ordinance, I will work with Councilmember Adams and we'll promptly schedule something for the discussion.
Thank you.
So what they're doing is basically give a 6-month report on where we are 6 months later.
Well, actually, I'm not going to come back if it's working great. I think if there are any problems that come up, we'll work with you to schedule the.
And at that point, that's when we'll know the signal to go ahead and have a meeting. Okay, thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. Thank you for the clarity.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Costello.
Thank you, Mayor and colleagues. Councilmember Davis, I fully support the issue that you're raising as far as the tenting of the parking lots for special events, and I'm in support of Chairman Adams in terms of looking at the issue in the event we have to. It's all going to be consumer-driven and complaint-driven, so hopefully this will be fine and we'll move forward. Otherwise, I'm going to support the amendment and agree to look at it in 6 months if we have to.
Councilmember Lassiter.
Thank you, Mayor. This whole discussion about parking has been a fascinating one, because I really think if you peel back the layers of the onions, you begin to see an inner city problem, which for most of us would be inside the loop, and the areas outside of the city. What's also fascinating is if you look at the growth patterns of Houston, we have multi-concentric areas of density, and we're encouraging that density to become even more densely populated. But the unique part of Houston as we grow is that you're still going to have to drive there to enjoy it for most of us, because we just don't have the infrastructure or the transportation infrastructure to go get on a subway or a train or a bus to get us there. So what makes our challenge on this parking debate I think more interesting than other cities is because of those concentric areas. So we're always going to have this tension between how do you get the other people to these concentric circles of density. I think that Yeoman's work has been put forth on this ordinance, and we can always make it better in the future, but I think it's pretty good for what we've got, and I want to say thank you to you and the administration and all the other persons who have participated in this development of these parking questions and regulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other discussion? We have before us an amended ordinance, so we'll move to a vote on the proposed proposed ordinance as amended. Favoring, opposed?
No.
Item carries. Councilmember Brown voting no.